Learn the art of investing on Moneywise.
Welcome to the Moneywise Podcast. My name is Sheetal, and this is an interesting month for me because guess what? I have very, very late in life begun my own journey into being aware of my financial situation. I've signed up for a course on what I should factor in with respect to my goals and how to sort of marry that into what I earn, what I should save, what are the asset classes that are right for me, and so on and so forth. And it's been a very, very interesting journey. And as a woman, I realized, I wish I'd done this a bit earlier. And I'm sure that's an idea that a lot of us grapple with, right? Usually it's another member of the family who takes care of these matters. That's quite common in a country like India. But then there are other barriers as well that we need to understand and therefore also break. Women and wealth, breaking financial barriers is the topic of conversation on today's podcast. Her money, her way. That's really our guide to investing for especially women. And the person who's joining us today to walk us through all of this is Vinita Kejriwal. She is an MFD with a lot of experience advising people on their financial journeys, and I'm sure she's going to set us off on that journey as well. Thank you so much, Vinita, for joining us, and welcome to the Moneywise Podcast.
Thank you so much, Sheetal, for having me on this show. I'm too excited equally here. Thank you so much.
Here I am talking, Vinita, about my own, taking charge of my financial independence, etc. But you are a financial advisor yourself. So you clearly began this journey very early on in life. So tell us about that journey, how you became an advisor and who really introduced you to this world.
My journey started in 2005. I actually joined HDFC Mutual Fund in that year, and I was there for 8 years. And then a point came in 2015 where I became a chartered accountant. And I really wanted to understand what I should do because it's only the experience. Should I go with that, or being a qualified chartered accountant, I should get into practice? Sometimes you land up by choice or compulsion, but it was my choice. I always wanted to get into this particular thing because I had a calling somewhere. So why not to get into a one which I enjoy a lot? And the second question, which is like how I got into the investing part. So you people all would remember, and we all have our childhood memories, right? So how, I'm coming from a very humble and a modest family, and where I've always closely observed that how value of money is really so important. So I'm starting from, saving into piggy bank and seeing my mom saving somewhere in the kitchen closet. And, I always used to wonder, is it a magic? Why whenever I ask something and she'll come out and she will like, Acha, let me do this for you. She'll come out with some idea or some kind of, thing, and she'll end up buying those things. And, also, started early working in the mid age and, saving for myself also gave me some kind of impetus that, yes, I should get into saving. Generally, constructed saving, I started in 2005 when I had joined HDFC. So my first salary was 7,500. I saved 500 out of that. And even that was my first SIP or first saving. So that's the trait. It was there in me from initial days itself.
But I'm sure you've also witnessed that there are common financial challenges that women especially face, Vinita. So if you were to tell us about a few of those so we can be aware as women and learn how to navigate that path then.
Yeah, Sheetal, you're very true about this because I also do a lot of, seminars or webinars kind of a way for women, this financial awareness as well. But when I speak to them and when I conclude my session, so only one feedback which I actually come across is, it's okay, I've heard everything, I've listened to it, but men around us, let's take them the decision. So I always wonder why this is happening. Why don't they take the in charge? So there are some kind of, hindrances or some kind of things which hold them back to take such kind of decisions. Even I was coming some data across where I was just listening that, out of 10, only one woman globally is actually, understand what is the investments. And you narrow down these data, only 28% of the women actually understands, right? So, and they are confident that, yes, this is about investments. And for them, stock market is again little, or investing or pursuing mutual funds are little far off. So in India also, if you see 21% of the mutual fund investors are only women. So out of 5, only 1 is a women investor. So when you talk about it, and when you see such data, there are some pointers which actually are there, which are holding back women. So if you have to talk about point-wise, it's like what? Still, there are a lot of pay differences. In a corporate world also, you talk about equality, you talk about inclusion, diversity, but when it comes to the pay, women are really underpaid. And also at times, as a kind of, as a responsibility, women have to take a career break. As a mother, as a
Yeah.
caretaker, they have to actually prioritize their responsibility, and then they have to take a break as well. And
Right.
because of that, also the financial repercussions are there. So
Hmm.
because that also hits your financials, which you were having earlier, and which at the end also hits your kind of, your savings and investment part. And we
Right.
always talk about financial inclusion, but it doesn't actually happen when it comes practically. So
Right.
it's only men around us who are always taking the decisions because we don't
Right.
want to take that accountability.
Absolutely. These conversations need to be had, and they need to be had very, very early in one's life, I would imagine. And as a pointer, if you're taking a career break to all women, it's not that you need to be financially dependent during that break. If you plan right from the time that you earn your first paycheck or make your first income in some manner, that can actually take you long way in the long run, especially when it comes to moments like these. But Vinita, why is it important for women to be financially independent? What are the prime reasons?
Most of the time when it comes to finances, we are most of the time dependent on a man around, right? So
Mm,
even if you want to go for a break, if you know on small thing, even if you want to buy or something also, if your choice, you actually have to think twice because you're not financially independent. So that security or autonomy is really very, very important as a woman. When you have such kind of planning on the way, you can actually, prioritize such things. And in the life, there are a lot of changes which you go through, right? So to handle such changes like when it may be some unprecedented situation, which was one of the example was COVID, when there can be a loss of your spouse, or maybe it's like again a very, very extreme, but even in case of divorce also, because most of the time, if you have to even take decisions, you are bound to stay in your life or some toxic relationship because you don't have any kind of financial security. So I'm
right.
talking little blunt here, but it is actually. So, but if you
Yeah.
have some kind of financial security, maybe you can decide little advance. And
Right.
also, when it comes to again finances, it's always, those are the traditional kind of talk like as a man, let them take this kind of decisions. So
Right.
one has to break this myth and come out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
And really, when you talk about financial inclusion, it has to be financial inclusion in this area.
Financial awareness is very, very important. And sometimes you might even take the decision that between the two of us, okay, you're good at managing finances. Please carry on doing that. You may say to your spouse that that is the case, but you should be aware of what are the asset classes, what is happening to your money, the one that you're earning and all of that. And at the very least, awareness is required. And of course, if you want to do your own management with a financial advisor, that would be the best. Now is where we come to some pointers, some steps actually. How can women start taking control of their finances? If you can give us some ideas.
So, Sheetal, you would agree that we as women are always good at, doing our budgeting and
Right.
everything. I mean, if it is about your household also expenses, we actually, put the pointers and we, have those kind of, yeah, these are our monthly expenses. This is the income, and we have particular budget out of which only you have to run your home, right? So when we are
Right.
good at this, why not for your investments also you can do some kind of budgeting, which can give you a fair idea. I mean, fair sense like how to invest and what are your expenses. And at the end, out of that, also, you can take some kind of step and
Right.
start investing. So I think
Right.
first, budgeting is really very important. At the same time, budgeting itself includes how to track your expenses. So you have a sense of idea that how much you can invest as well.
Right.
And then I think setting the financial goal, which is really again very important because if you don't have any goal, you cannot plan an action as well, right? So
Right.
goal and action planning that is really again it is like it is parallel thing.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a goal, you cannot again decide how much to invest, where to invest, what is your kind of goal going forward. So that's
Right.
again really very important. And
Mm-hmm.
also again equally very important is your emergency fund. So
Hmm.
again we have seen, and why mention this COVID again and again, because it was a very recent situation which we all have come across. So we understand how much important is just creating your emergency fund, because emergency doesn't come predictable, right? Because you
Right.
don't know whether it is tomorrow or day after tomorrow or when it is. So you should be having some kind of emergency fund. Maybe 6 months
Hmm.
of your expenses is generally we call as an emergency fund. So this is
Right.
one you need to create as well.
Mhm.
And not lastly, but of course, for doing all these things, you should have some kind of knowledge, because knowledge gives you the confidence. And how to
Hmm.
gain that is, attending some webinar, and, doing some kind of, attending some kind of financial awareness programs, or keeping yourself aware about what is happening with your finances and what kind of decisions you can take. And that's called really mindful decisions, right? Because just listening to others and taking your financial planning decisions would be really, you couldn't end up where you want to actually.
Now that brings me to options. You mentioned options, right? We should know about the options that we have. Is there something like, that's ideal for women specifically, Vinita, or is it just, a general set of options that you will give to everybody?
So this is basically not specific to women as well. But to start with, I'm just talking directly about, there is one particular, that's very close to my heart as well, which is a SIP, right? Systematic investment plan, which is one of the feature or one of the mechanism through which you can start getting into investment mode. Because I think at the end, what is really very important is your discipline. So discipline comes when you have some kind of mode where the investments are in the auto mode, and at the same time you can create some kind of your investment purpose step by step. Because maybe as a woman, when you're going to start, you're just at the starting phase, you might not get such kind of confidence or the trust unless and until you experience. And how to experience this is, I think SIP would be one of the best way, because mutual fund has given this SIP as a feature which has everything. You can start with a small amount, as small as ₹100, out of your budget or out of your whatever you're getting for your household expenses. Also, getting into saving this kind of amount would not be really difficult. But at the end, it depends how much actually you want to create a corpus. This I mentioned because maybe it becomes really easy to get into that investment journey. So SIP gives you the feature of, starting any amount, pause your SIP, stop, or then you can add. And again, this averaging, at most of the time when you're putting your investment, you have this kind of fear, whether you're, even if you understand market, you would like to time it, right? Whether this is going to be a right time to invest in, but SIP gives you a feature where you have this averaging cost of money. So this is again benefit of the SIP as well. At the same time, mutual fund is just such a big ocean where there are different kind of other schemes or the investment options as well. Once you start investing, you would understand gradually and you will evolve as a good investor.
One more question for you, Vinita. How can women balance their short-term financial needs with their long-term investment goals? Because both these are very important in the life of a woman. I want to go on a vacation immediately next month. That's a shorter-term goal for me. But then I have a child who I want to, make sure that they get to the best university. That could be a long-term goal. So explain this area, please.
So like earlier also you mentioned about these financial goals, Sheetal, because the goals can be actually classified into short, mid or the long-term kind of goal. So today's era, when we talk about goals, the bucket list is actually huge, right? So when you talk about short-term, exotic vacation may be a short-term goal for you, buying a car may be a mid-term. And again, as a woman, we all would love to buy jewelry. That can also be one of your goal, right? And any expensive thing you want to buy, that can be also a goal. And then coming, to a long-term goal like child's education, child's marriage, or maybe retirement per se. So when you have a classification of the goals at place, it really becomes easy to plan your investment. Suppose now if you want to invest for the short-term goal, which is your exotic vacation or something like that, the products would be aligned to that only. So you can start putting into liquid or the debt fund, which is there in the mutual fund, like we were mentioning about the options. So when you come to know about these kind of options, then you can start, putting your short-term money or emergency fund into that. And when it comes into mid-term kind of goal, you can start putting into a blend of product. Maybe that can be a hybrid kind of product, which is, again, for the investor, I would say, this means that that's kind of, having a mix of both equity or the debt kind of mix. So I'm not going into detail because that would again take maybe another podcast. And then when you get into your long-term goals, which is maybe your child's education, because when it comes to child education, which is actually so close to our heart, because we don't want any compromise for that, right? And even the inflation, if you talk about, that's one of the, if you see, the highest has been the education inflation. But if you start planning beforehand, and as a mother or as a woman, if you want to contribute something for your child also at the later age, also then you can start something like putting a SIPs into equity, diversified equity funds. So that you will not be having a hit on the, at the one time you have to put out your investments, or you don't want to take a loan as well. When you have your owned money, that gives you a different sense, right? So I mean, then you can bifurcate and accordingly you can plan your investment.
So essentially, a diversified portfolio is a good idea, and this might really actually be mapped to your short, mid, and long-term goals. And again, your risk appetite, the kind of inflation, like you rightly mentioned, education, that particular corpus sees almost a 9%, if I'm not mistaken, around that area, the sort of inflation. And so you factor all these things in to get to the right strategy for you. And there's always someone to guide you. In that guidance, Vinita, what is the advice that you are going to give to women who are just starting their investment journey?
Okay, first thing though, you should have to take a step to start, because most of the time we talk, and when it comes to the execution part, we take a leg back really. So we always think, is it the right person? Am I going right? So as you rightly mentioned, not maybe Vinita, but you need some kind of navigator or a person whom you can trust and can take you through these journeys, or who can be with you, right, and can give you the right advice. So start investing, have a proper advisor. And then, I mean, you can, and that gives you also some kind of, insights also, right? So you can also become really mindful that, yes, I'm not listening to others, I'm doing it myself. And you can also do some counter questions. When you understand the subject, you can counter the question. Otherwise, it's like, okay, let the advisor do. I don't know what my husband is doing, or for per se XYZ. But when you're doing yourself, you will understand what is happening with your investment. And at the end, it's about your hard-earned money, right? And finance is everything at the end. So that's what I was just mentioning. Yes, start, have your proper advisor, and maybe start with small. What I was mentioning about SIP, and most of the time it's about systematic investment plan, but I say small is powerful. So even if you start putting a small amount, you will understand how your investments are growing. Have some kind of, a sense where what is happening in the economy. That will give you really more kind of confidence. Yes, my money, why I'm putting into equity. What does equity mean at the end, right? So all these basics has to be understood. So don't have that fear. I mean, like as a women, most of the time we don't want to start because we don't want to take that ownership. We don't want to be accountable. If we go wrong, we always feel the other part. But unless and until you start, you would not have the outcome. So start investing.
So the first step is to really start. And then after that,
actually, you have to get into that mode.
Yeah, because execution mein maar kha jate hain log, so that is something, I think someone who is experienced in the area can really guide us. You've given us, I think, a good platform from which we are going to now skydive into the world of investments. And I hope it's fun for every woman, because we like, some adventure, little bit of a smile in our life, some happiness, something to look forward to in the future. All of these map very well with the dream that most women have of stable future eventually. So thank you for putting us on that path, Vinita.
Thank you so much, Sheetal. And I hope even I can bring a small change in one of the life. I'll be really, really very glad. Thank you so much.
You're listening to Moneywise, brought to you by Bandhan Mutual Fund. Check out the rest of our series for more insights on investment and personal finance. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.